I was not.
Woohoo! So welcome everyone to
Mhm.
this recording of writing from awareness versus attention, how to end procrastination and finish your unfinished pieces. The title of this workshop is called Unfinished, and it's on the premise of not just like finishing your unfinished pieces, but just being an unfinished human being, right?
Mhm.
The premise of being unfinished as a person, right? Because we're never like totally finished until we die, right?
Mhm.
In fact, I wrote a poem recently to commemorate this workshop. And one of the things that I said in that poem is that infinity is actually the opposite of perfection.
Okay, let's elaborate more on that though.
Yeah.
Okay, so repeat that one more time for the people.
Infinity is the opposite of perfection.
Infinity, that little like squiggly thing, is
the opposite of perfection. Yeah. Because if you're perfect, it is already a concrete thing. It's already done, right? Whereas infinity allows for many variations of who you are, of what is, including the flaws and imperfections. They're all part of the beautiful grand design. Like I ended the poem by saying, I'm unfinished, infinite whole. Because that is, to me, like, I'd rather be whole than good. I'd rather be a whole person than a good person.
Yeah.
And that's my goal, to be unfinished, infinite, and whole. And that's part of what this workshop's about too.
I love that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's go into the experiment, right? Into what attention is. There's a simple experiment. You just look at your hand and you deliberately use your mind to process the information that the hand is there. So you're paying attention to your hand and you're deliberately setting the intention to only use uh, your conditioned mind, your attention, right? To know that the hand is there.
Okay.
So we'll just stay with that for a bit.
So in this exercise, I
Hi,
just
Nicholas. Yeah.
have to.
Yeah, we're just going into the attention exercise. What attention is. Hi.
Hi, Kundan.
Yeah. So
Kundan,
just
to the co-host over here.
Yeah, my co-host.
Hi, I'm Alexis.
Alexis.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of practicing this exercise that Kundan is leading.
You doing the attention exercise?
Yeah,
Yes, that one.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So, and so you've already gone through the exercise, Nicholas. So I'll just have you like observe, and then when it comes time to write or express, you can have your turn to express yourself as well. So, but you can silently go through the exercise and follow along too again, because it's a good reminder. So now, notice Alexis and Nicholas, just what your mind is doing, right? How it's paying attention and how it knows that the pen is there, right? We'll just stay like that, just observing what your mind is doing for a bit, maybe like 30 seconds or a minute.
I didn't realize how many little lines I have on my hand. Like,
yeah,
it's gonna sound kind of off or weird, but like I never realized. I don't know, just like the true shape of my hands and my fingers. I feel like it's something that I just always assumed like I knew. Like, oh yeah, I have 5 fingers. I have no nail polish. I have XYZ rings, you know. But to actually be taking the time to look at my hand, I'm actually feeling sensations that I didn't even realize. I could feel like some of my veins like pumping. Like, I don't. Oh no! Oh, my phone died. Okay. Well,
this is very good. So you're already noticing the way your mind is operating. And you're already even getting into the awareness part, but we'll get more into detail later. But I was going to ask you how your mind knows that the hand is there, but you already started to express it, right? When your mind is already giving you these thoughts, right? And there's nothing wrong with them. It's good. Is because in our day-to-day life, like your mind doesn't even do that because you're not even paying attention. Where like, in fact, in our daily life, we don't even use either attention or awareness all that well. We just use just as default programming, right? That's why like the lines are such a surprise for you, right? And but the fact that your mind is telling you that there are all of these lines, right? It's still an indirect knowing, right? So your mind is giving you a memory of what it knows from the past and giving you in that memory of data from the past into the present moment, and it's telling you, hey, oh my God, didn't you know there are so many lines in your hand, right? So that's almost like a self-talk that you can hear, right? That because how did you know that there are these lines, right? Your mind, you must have heard a voice in your mind telling you that, right? Right. Yeah. So that's one of the ways the mind communicates, right? Through this, the voice in our head, right? Another way might be images of movies, right? That flicker in and out. In fact, we're gonna get into that. So now, because now, for now, you still see your hand with your eyes, right? So that's another way that you know uh, that the hand is there, right? That your mind knows. So now take away that data, right? By either moving your hands away or closing your eyes, right?
Okay.
And still paying attention to the hand. And yet your mind is still paying attention to the hand. So your mind still knows somehow that the hand is there, right? And just notice, how does it know this time? Like, what data is it giving you? What information? How is it processing this?
I mean, I'm not seeing anything. I moved it, but yet I know that the hand is still there because I feel like it's just something in me that can't be, or at least not easily taken away.
Yeah.
So I think it's just that, like, I think what it comes down to, it's that knowing that I have a hand and that I believe in my deepest self that it's there. And so I deem that as truth.
Right.
Yes.
So it's you're relying on a belief that is there, right?
Yes.
Rather than directly knowing that it's there, right? For now. And so again, it is this database of the past that mind is giving you, right? And you, because you've lived with this hand for so long, you implicitly trust that data, right? So basically, now you know what attention is. That's attention, right? It's just a simple noticing that something is there, and just trusting in the database of the past, right? Whether the immediate past or the far past or the continuous past. In this case, is more of the continuous past because the hand has always been here, as far as you know. Like it feels like it's always been there, even though you are a certain age, right? And it's only been around that time that you've lived, but it feels like forever, right? Because that's the feeling your mind is giving, right? And so from this place of like, and another thing is like the hand is a noun, right? It's a static thing, right?
Yes.
That is that. Even though it does move, right? It doesn't feel like it changes much, right? So there's a tendency to objectify even ourselves, and by objectify, I mean like to see it as this unchanging noun rather than a verb. That's another way attention works, right? So now you can write or even just spontaneously express. Just choose an object in this park and
An
just talk
option.
about it. Just like express the data that you're getting from it, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So and for those that are on the Zoom, I know you guys can't see what I'm seeing, but if I look straight ahead, there is what looks like to be an elementary school. And they have, you know how like in elementary schools outside on their walls, not the walls, but like the fence, they sometimes put like their mascot or they put like lettering by putting, I don't know, like it looks like tape or some sort. So I'm looking straight ahead and I see paws, I see the word bobcat, and immediately what comes to my mind, and I think this is where I think the level of the difference between attention and detail coming into effect, or at least into play, is that attention would be me seeing the actual the fence with the letterings with the animal print, and an awareness would be making a connection, right? And that connection that I'm making or that I'm associating with what I'm seeing, with what I'm paying attention to, is my childhood, my elementary, high school memories. I think seeing that reminds me of like, oh, I remember as a little young girl walking to my elementary and then passing by the fence and seeing the same paws, because I mean, a lot of elementaries are represented by cats or animals, and so seeing like the paw prints, it reminds me of that, and that's the level of awareness that I'm now associating with what I'm seeing. Is I'm making the links to childhood. I'm linking, I guess, creativity, representation, school pride, all that stuff. And then naturally, what goes on into my head is like, okay, now where do I see a flaw? And I don't know why my brain does that, but I'm just like, what I'm seeing is something that is tangible, but I guess my mind always goes into, okay, but what can make it better, or what is it representing? Like I'm always like in my own head thinking, what connections are being associated with this? Is it something that people are perceiving as good? Is it something people are perceiving as bad? And I think that the reason my brain goes there, and that is also maybe a source as to why I don't put my artwork out, is because I get that fear that whatever I create, whatever I perceive, is always going to have a negative association with it. And I think that I do that without even realizing, and that kind of discourages me. At least this is like my thought process, right? I'm like, okay, we're living at a time where being politically correct, being understood under certain lightings, we sometimes have like strings that are pulling us from expressing how we truly want to express. And so my mind is constantly just in this exercise, I'm looking again at a fence with paw prints and letters that says bobcat, but my brain is already like wired and thinking like all these things. I'm just like, oh girl, you need to chill.
Yeah, and all of that is your mind, right? The attention. The funny thing though is this exercise is a paradox because we haven't even got into
The awareness
yet, but the very act of that's why I say it's a paradox. The very act of even doing this exercise is that it's impossible to know, almost impossible to know, to observe what your mind is doing without observing it from above, from awareness. So it's almost like there's already a merging of awareness with attention. So all of that is you're noticing, maybe even for the first time, at least within this context, the way your mind processes information, right? The way attention does. And you're starting to notice all of these, the default patterns of how your mind processes information, even something as simple as the drawings on the elementary school, right? It's already telling you all of these data points, all of these information that really have nothing to do with the knowing that the school buildings are there, right? But it still makes you human and relatable. That it's basically attention, or the way your conditioned mind processes information, is still the human part of you. So it's still valuable. So that's why I want to emphasize throughout this workshop that it's not a false dichotomy. It's not that one is better than the other. We need both. It's just that too often we use one too much more than the other.
Ah,
And all the
okay.
time we use too much of attention more than awareness. Although there are a few people who veer the other way, they go into too much awareness, and that's when they become ungrounded and spacey, and even into the psychiatric ward and all of these
Yes.
things. So
Oh my God, that's
yeah,
okay. That's
yeah,
gonna open up a can of worms
yeah,
of other conversations
yeah.
that okay.
But
Okay,
that's
but
why we say we need both,
yes,
right?
we
Like,
need a balance.
Yeah. So Nicholas, you've already gone through the attention
yeah,
exercise.
I already gone through the experiment,
Yeah.
and
How was it for you when you were like writing the first time when you expressed from attention, right? Where did you feel that first time?
yeah, it took a while for me to learn that. But she's a quick learner, no fair.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
10 seconds.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's this Aries thing. I'm sorry. I'm a
It's
double
okay.
Aries. So
Yeah,
my brain just gets
yeah,
wired easily.
yeah.
Virgo.
Virgo,
Virgo.
awesome.
Ooh, attention to detail is big
Yeah,
for
you
you
just had your
then.
birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm gonna take it through awareness, and then I'll interview you about your experience afterwards from that workshop, because I want to know, like, now that you've had a few days to process it.
I can do the poem for that I did for attention.
Oh yeah, do the poem for attention, and then after the
I think
exercise,
I'm
do
trying
the poem for
to
awareness.
I'm trying to remember which one was attention.
You
I think
remember the poem for attention with the fan, right? Yeah,
I think that was
yeah, yeah. Do that.
just like the fan that fans the flames that burn in my poem. The fan that goes around and around like a merry-go-round brings attention. Brings attention to your mind with every fan that goes throughout time. That fan that blows the flames that burn in this poetry. That attention span burns brighter. Was the attention of my mind that pays attention to the fan. Spins and spins like a top. Goes around like a merry-go-round. It never stops. Was the attention of detail is attention for me. With my mind is set free through attention for me.
That's such a good metaphor for attention, the fan, because like we even experienced with her, like the mind is going all over the place like a fan, like round and round, and oftentimes it's the same thought patterns over and over again, like a fan. Yeah, and then we'll get into your
It's
second
kind of like
poem.
when I'm doing my poetry. I'm a poet that I've been doing this
Yeah.
for 3 months, and Kundan knows I've been doing this for 3 months. I told him. I've
Mhm.
been doing this for like this is actually my 4th month I've been doing it. I've been doing it for 4 months now.
Mhm.
And,
Congrats on that.
and whenever I do a poem, my mind goes everywhere, and the
Mhm.
word just flows me naturally. I'm a freestylist,
Right,
so
yeah.
everything I do is a freestyle. I don't write my poems down. Um
Do you
all
record them?
Do you record
I
them on like a voice recording app or something?
I'm trying to I'm gonna try to record one. I haven't voice recorded one yet, but
I think you should definitely at least record it for yourself. Like if you don't want to write it or go back to edit all that stuff, that's totally cool. I think you should just record it though, just for your own documentation, just for your own way, so you can reflect back on the growth, right? So I think documentation, whether you want to share it out with the world or not, is completely up to you, but at its very core, it's I think a practice that you should maintain for yourself, just for your own documentation, you know?
Yeah, if you want, I can even send you after I upload this. It's already automatically uploaded. I mean, after I download it, I will probably like make a small clip of this with just your poem and send it to you, so you can at least have that documentation.
Yeah, that little
Yeah,
snippet.
that little snippet. That'll be
Yeah,
good.
but that was
Yeah,
dope. Thank you
that
for
was dope.
sharing.
Yeah, yeah. And then his one about awareness was great too. We'll get into that after I take you through the exercise.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
you can,
and Kundan knows I'm a very busy, person. I go on over
go on
58
so
open
many
mics
lives
every
all
week.
day long. Yeah.
50, I every day, all day is
And you do
live.
your own lives
Live,
too. Yeah. Yeah.
every open mic
I
that
want
pops
to
up.
get
Yeah.
I definitely want to get more comfortable with going on lives. I was telling Kundan that typically when I go on lives is usually when I'm really drunk and I'm like out there just saying hi to friends on the website. I'm just like a total mess.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a shit show, but it's
I
fun.
actually, I actually do this show. I started the show, and it was inspired by watching Kundan do his live. Um, it's my show is called the Inspirational Poet Show of Inspiration. I finally opened up my platform to feature
Mhm.
rappers, dancers, musicians, uh, all different types of talent, all different types of I even told one person, one person asked me a question today, do I feature landscapers? I said, landscaping is still a hobby, is still a talent considered to me.
All right. I mean, like you
Yeah,
have to
exactly.
organize and have
For
a
sure
vision.
not. Yeah.
To landscape, you need a vision. To architect,
Mhm.
you know, an a peaceful oasis for people to enjoy. So
And,
still an art.
and also landscapers are also artists because you have to write down the blueprints, the
Mhm.
Mhm.
landscape, the to start scaping that land. Um,
Mm.
So I told the person, yes, I do feature landscapists. I will feature engineers because engineers
All creativity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
was
Like, and I think
you have to be good at math to be an engineer. You have to
Mhm.
calculate. You have to
Math and design. Yeah. All of those things. Yeah.
yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of times we associate a lot of people's occupations as like this definitive position where it's so quantitative, like 1 + 1 is 2, it's
Mhm.
math, you go to college, you get this. But I feel like in the human experience that we're living in, we're all artists. We just gotta find where we can tap in to express it to, our
Yeah.
most fullest extent. Like I think that doctors are artists. Like the fact that we
Mhm.
think of them like, oh no, there's science, they're scientists, they're whatever. Like we again, we want to make it so it's like very definitive when really I
Again,
think
that false binary, right?
yeah, and it's like why are we just labeling ourselves and identifying with our occupation when in truth we are artists. Some people are
And we're verbs, like I said earlier, not
yeah.
nouns. We're ever changing, growing.
ever since I started the show, I actually interviewed like 5 people today. I interviewed 5 people. I usually get over 58 interview requests every week.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
I've been getting my DMs have been blowing up with people asking for a feature, wanting to be featured, and a lot of them congratulating me on my platform because they said that sometimes even Tequila Sway, I think you know Tequila Sway, right, Kundan?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We've been interviewing them as well, that whole, all of the hosts. Yeah.
Yeah, she
But
told me.
we're losing the light, so I want to get on with the next part of the workshop
Mm-hmm.
before it gets dark.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
let's quick
yeah. So let's
okay.
go into awareness.
Awareness.
So look into
Jesus,
your head. Yeah,
it got dark very quickly.
yeah, it gets dark pretty quickly. So and now forget your mind for a little bit. Go directly into awareness. Uh, you were already getting a little bit when you were aware of the muscle sensations and the blood vessels earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beginning of awareness. So go deeper into the awareness of being aware of your hands, your fingers, from directly inside the fingers, and then even become aware of the spaces between the fingers and around.
It's almost like a
Uh-huh.
little numbing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like what the
Around.
heck? I never.
Yeah,
Okay. It's like a tingly
you
sensation.
start feeling the tingles, right?
Yes,
Yes.
I feel
You
it.
start
What the
feeling more
heck?
alive. That awareness is aliveness as well.
Mm,
And now become aware of the space between you, between the hands and your eyes. There's a space, right?
mhm.
And that space, just like the tingling in your hands, is also alive. There's an aliveness there. And then become aware of the awareness itself. Like, and now ask yourself, how does awareness know that my hand is here? Or in other words, how do I know directly that the hand is here? This direct knowing.
Mhm. I mean, it would seem so out of the ballpark for me to think that it's not there. Like I know it's there, but why do I know that it's there?
Mm-hmm.
Is honestly like beyond me. It's like, okay, I trust what I'm physically seeing. I trust what I'm physically feeling.
But this trust is like a deeper trust,
Yeah.
right? Because now you even said beyond me, right? Like
Mhm.
earlier, it was more like mundane, blase.
Mhm.
Oh, it's there. You just trusted the past. But now it's like you trust is there, and you also trust there's something bigger here, right?
Mhm.
Larger presence. Starting with that tingling, that aliveness, right? But
Mhm.
that tingling, that sense of aliveness, extends beyond your hands, right?
Mhm.
Extends to the space around your hand, right?
Mhm.
In fact, even though technically there are no senses that sense the space around
Mhm.
you, right? Like you can,
Mhm.
there the space is invisible, right?
Mhm.
So you don't see it with your eyes or hear it or feel it or taste it, right? And yet, just like you know the hand is there, you know the space is there, right?
Mhm.
That's awareness too. This awareness of the space. Now tune into the openness of the space. In fact, there's a stillness here as well.
Mhm.
And bring that stillness, that openness, spaciousness up your arms to your shoulders, neck,
Mhm.
and then above your head, and the top of your head, and then above your head, there is open space as well.
No, I just got goosebumps.
Yeah, and become aware of that.
Oh, like my body just went.
And notice how far this awareness goes, and you notice there is no answer how far that awareness
Mhm.
goes. And from this place, you can even ask yourself, who am I really?
I'm not gonna lie, like a lot of these thoughts that I'm thinking are usually thoughts that I get when I'm really, really just at a state of mind where I'm contemplating life
Mm-hmm.
and I contemplate like my existence. And sometimes not always in a bad way. I'm just like, what am I? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what am I really? Like sometimes I'll be sitting in my car and I'll just be there just I guess meditating where I'm just thinking to myself, like trying to focus on my breathing, trying to focus on feeling my car, because that's usually when I'm, between jobs working. That's usually where like I'm able to just breathe a little,
Yeah.
And I think that how does meditation tie with writing now? So
Yeah. So now we're gonna get into
or how does this awareness now tie into the
right.
writing?
So now that's what we're gonna get
Mhm.
into now, right? So when we write, writing is a way of processing the world, exploring the world,
Mhm.
right, including yourself.
Yes.
And when we do so, we often look at the world as a bunch of objects, right? We even see other people as objects and ourselves. As I said, we tend to objectify. Uh, Often objectification is only used in, in the like relationship, romantic, sexual context, but it goes far beyond that. It's our default program, right? And this exercise will help you expand beyond that so that you can write more freely. So earlier I asked you to focus on an object in the space, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how your mind processes information anyway. But how you process information directly, how you know things. So that awareness that you experience, the funny thing is it's another paradox. Awareness is both how you know and who you are simultaneously.
Because who you are is essentially correlates to what you already know.
Yeah,
It's like you don't know what you don't know until you know.
right, exactly. So now, still staying with that sense of open awareness above your head, right? Now bring it down into the space in front of you, right? In front of your eyes. And this time, instead of focusing on an object, look at the space itself, the space between two objects, and express about it.
So if I'm looking at that same object, right? The fence, the school fence, and I have to speak on the awareness of the space.
Yeah, the space in front of that object, or even like the space between that fence and the street, for example, right?
I think my mind immediately is thinking, how many people have driven past that? How many, right? Because I'm looking at the space and what's between the space. I mean, in actuality, there are people walking across it. There are cars that are driving past it. And then I guess my thought process is, how many people have passed that wall, that fence, and my mind is not thinking like, and thought the same as me, or thought differently as me, and if differently, how so? In what ways was it different? And I think that seeing the space between me and this fence now, I guess I'm trying to correlate what that physical thing is and tying it with my connection, but with the intention of putting myself on the exterior and centralizing what I guess was more importantly is, how are other people interacting it? Are they interacting it the same way that I am, or are they interacting with this object, with this wall differently? And if they are, how and why? What are their stories? Like, I guess that's where my brain is already taking me.
That's beautiful beginning because earlier you were focused more on yourself, your self-centered, your story, your childhood, like you're the center of the world. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's important to you have that self-discovery too. But now you are expanding that into how you relate to the world, how the world relates to each other, and having a larger sense of interconnectedness. Exactly. Yeah, in fact, it is said that, you know, we contribute to each other even just by breathing because we contribute each other's oxygen, we contribute the carbon dioxide to the trees, which in turn give us back the oxygen we need. So that is why I don't like classless, aimless notions that, oh, the people who don't work are lazy and not contributing. They are contributing just by their presence, just by their very breath, right?
Yes.
So yeah. So that's a beautiful beginning. Now I want you to become aware of the space itself and even uh, if you see a person walking or even the cars or the people inside the cars, see the person not as a static object, but as another space, a space itself in a larger space,
Okay.
right? And then express that.
So expressing what the space would mean, even if like a person like that person that's just walking by is more than it's not just it's more like a static object, or what do you mean by that? Sorry, I
As so, like an analogy is like when I paint, right?
mhm
And even as a viewer, when you look at a painting, the tendency is to look at the lines of the painting,
mhm
right? Uh, instead of the space between the lines. Like when I paint, I do the opposite. I focus. My paintings are all about the space,
mhm
and the lines are just to hold the space and draw attention to the space. And
okay
that's how I want the viewer to look at my paintings, for example.
mhm
Uh, and hopefully they would look at other paintings in that way too, as a
mhm
result of looking at my paintings.
mhm
So similarly, when we look at a human being or even this tree, right?
yeah
We'd see this tree as this line. If this was a painting, we
mhm
would see the line,
mhm
right? And we would see the grass as more lines, right?
mhm
But we don't see the space, and we don't even see the tree as not a line, but actually a space.
mhm
And the lines are actually really only 5% of its existence. This is true even in science. Like the visible universe is only 5%,
mhm
and what's invisible is known as dark matter or dark energy. You can't
oh
even see it, and a lot of scientists to this day they don't even know what it is.
you know, yeah okay
Yes. So that's what I'm pointing at. Like, and this is something even beyond this Western science because they discovered it only recently. We've known our cultures have known this for like
mhm
thousands of years. So try to like become directly aware, right, that this tree is not a noun, it's a verb, is growing into the space, ever
mhm
growing from the past to the present to the future. And it's its own space inside this larger space. It's something that's taking up a space rather than just a static noun or object.
mhm
It's a verb that's ever growing and ever changing,
it's
just like
more
you are, like we all
intention
are.
like
And then it's
intentionally there
interconnected as well. Like
mhm
this tree is not a singular tree. Like its roots are interconnected with the roots of the other trees.
mhm
In fact, it's connected with the whole world through the fungi and the microbes.
yeah
Uh,
it has it's like a source of energy
yeah.
it's its own source of energy
Hmm.
and I think that when we okay so if I'm looking at it with the focus of acknowledging its phase it makes me question like kind of like how you were saying like I'm seeing this in 3D I
Hmm.
suppose but if I were to paint this using strictly just lines it would be just like a 2D figure
Hmm.
right
Yeah.
which is less of a one less dimension therefore
Hmm.
one less
Exactly.
um facet that could have room for interpretation and
Hmm.
all that sort. So if I seeing it in 3D and imagining it in 4 or 5D and other dimensions, I feel like I could only I mean I'm limited by its capacity, the space's capacity,
Hmm.
but the knowing that there's still something,
There's
there's
more
still
to it.
yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I did not think I would come to these conclusions of just I feel like
You did it.
I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of this is just taking the time.
Hmm.
Like I wish I could have more time to and I have to dedicate more time to doing these type of practices.
So now the third step is to bring attention and awareness together because another word for attention is just focus.
Mm-hmm.
And the irony is you can direct your awareness using attention and move your awareness around,
Mm-hmm.
what you actually kind of have been doing anyways when I asked you to focus your awareness on the hand.
Mm-hmm.
So because the actual awareness, like I said, is infinite, it's way above here. But
Mm-hmm.
I asked you to, like a laser, focus it on the hand initially because
Mm-hmm.
it's easier and more intense before you focus it.
Yeah.
But then I took you back to the awareness above your head. But in both instances, you did it. Ironically, you did that with attention. You focus your awareness. The problem is that for a lot of people don't realize this mechanism. So their awareness is totally trapped inside attention, and they become a victim of all of the other attentions that other people have put on them.
So that's how people get triggered.
Yeah.
And then that's how people, and I see it because I used to be someone who struggled a lot with anxiety, and I would be so consumed
Right.
by
So your awareness that's actually free, has always been free, is trapped inside that anxiety,
in the
in
attention.
that attention, because your attention is now on the anxiety,
Mhm.
and then so is your awareness, because you have never differentiated between the two, so you have never developed the ability to let the two cooperate like you now. This is actually life changing.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, like I've
Yeah.
definitely gotten better with my anxiety, but I think a lot of that had to do with sitting down and just reflecting so much. And then kind of like how you're saying, differentiating what is it that I'm paying attention to? Like what is it that I'm focusing on? And then not taking it for what it is at a 2, 3 dimensional, but looking
Right.
for in a more aware
Right.
setting.
It's a
Like,
yes and rather than either or yes but.
yes.
So it's not, again, as I said, not that one is better than the other.
You
It
need
is
both.
more that one is trapped, right,
Mhm.
inside the other. So now you freed up awareness from attention, so that when you have anxiety next time, maybe it's it's not that it's gonna be like easy all the time. It's more that it's a little bit easier now
Mhm.
that it doesn't have to be trapped inside the attention all the time. Now
Mhm.
you can, using the same attention that was inside the anxiety, you can use that same attention, that focus, to get in touch with awareness,
Mhm.
and then lean on more into awareness and ask yourself, oh, what else is there besides anxiety? So yes, there's anxiety and it is real.
Mhm.
So you don't gaslight yourself, right? It is
Yeah.
real. And you acknowledge, yes, and there is so much more because I am so
Mhm.
much more than this. I'm not just my
Mhm.
anxiety. I am that which I'm experiencing right now. And there is so much more that I experience
Yep.
and I wasn't aware of before.
I'm learning so much.
All right, Nicholas, are you still there? Yeah, you're still there.
I'm still here.
Yeah, can you share your poem on the space between the fan and the door and the awareness poem? Because
Oh
it's
yeah.
such a perfect metaphor for awareness for what we're talking about.
So let me open the door on this fan poem. This fan poem that fans the flames of the burning sensation of attention that brings awareness. So let me open up the door to your reality because my fan will fan the flames of your individuality, fanning the flames of awareness just like in elementary school, like a paw print on the building, a paw print on your reality, just like the dark of your individuality. A dark space in a dark place for inspiration. This fan that spins around like a spinning top that spins around and around and opens the door to a new world, a world of your reality. Just like the attention of a hand that you lift out. So open up the door and let it be known because the fan will never stop spinning. Because your mind never stops spinning around and round and round like a top. And it never stops. And that's the reason.
That's the end of the piece. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Yeah. I remember you talking about the doorway, and when I asked you to focus on the space between two objects in the room, and you chose the fan and the doorway. And like you immediately, automatically, almost intuitively sense to go there, and it's powerful.
Listen, my mind sensed because what she kept talking about elementary school, so my mind kept focusing on that elementary school.
Oh, so you did basically a completely new poem?
Yeah, because my mind kept
Oh,
focusing on elementary school, but she kept saying, talking
oh
about the
yeah,
school.
yeah, yeah. So it's not a freestyle. Yeah, that's fine. I wanted to talk about the doorway poem because when you said that in that poem, it was pretty amazing because just like the fan was the metaphor for attention or your conditioned mind. And I say conditioned mind because the true nature of your mind is actually boundless and beautiful and limitless, but the conditioning gets in the way, right? So whereas awareness is like the doorway, like you express in that poem, it's more like it's a doorway that can open and close, meaning that if you wanted to protect yourself, you can close the door, there's that boundary, but you can also open the door for relationships, for connection, for other people. So there's a sense of like that boundlessness, but also a clear boundary if you wanted to. And it was such a powerful poem and metaphor that you came up with when you wrote the poem. It was pretty incredible. So, anyways, thank you for sharing, Nicholas.
Yes, thank you, Nicholas.
Really cool.
And then I don't mean to cut this short, but it is getting dark. Is there any other exercise or any other outside resources that you would recommend for people to tap into to further their
Yeah, I
awareness
was about
versus
to end this anyway because that was the end of the exercise.
sweet?
Uh,
Good segue.
so I recommend Spontaneous Creativity and Tibetan Sound Healing. Both books are by the same author, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche. And I also did a creativity workshop on releasing creative blocks last year for OC Zine Fest. And there's a recording of it on YouTube uh, where I use my paintings to take you through another experience similar to this. Uh, so I'll send you a video of that. I can send you to as well. But one last thing I wanted to say is basically like a testimonial or like your before and after result. What were you feeling before you came to this workshop, and like what is the result that you got? Like what are you feeling now? Like what's the before and after?
I
What's the
think
difference?
I think that before starting this workshop, I always felt like when it came to writing, you had to you had to draw from a certain experience, right? And a lot of times what experience do we know best other than our own, right?
Right.
And so I think after, the biggest, or at least my biggest takeaway, is that yes, your experience holds true. It holds very much like a lot of power in telling your story and representation, everything that we have previously talked about,
Yeah.
right? But it's the space itself for you can be one thing, but it has so many stories that it holds in itself outside of your own. And I think that in my writing, I would
There are
love
infinite stories in that space.
exactly
Yeah.
is to not just like not just use my story as one, but to also and make it an invitation for other stories, whether they're the same or different, to be shared by that same space. Because at the end of the day, how many cars just passed by since we first
And they all have
started?
a story in them.
Yeah, and that's gonna take them elsewhere to another passage, to another spaces. And I think that that's the awareness kicking in, where I'm just like, okay, I want my story, I want my writing, I want my artwork to be something that it's not just limited to that one confined thing, but more so trans dimensional, transcending for other people. I feel like that's the goal, and I think that that's the type of technique that I will go forward with. Yeah.
Ooh, that's amazing. That's incredible.
Thank
Yeah.
you, and it's all because of you, Kundan. You also are the one starting, sparking all these, planting all these seeds, sparking all these sparks.
Mhm.
But thank you again, and I'm so happy for those who were able to join. whether it was IG live before my phone died. But I would love to do this again in the future. I think this is fun.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And it's funny you said seed, planting seeds, because that was my word of the year. I don't do resolutions or intentions. I just choose a word of the year to guide me. So last year was space. This year was seeding.
And you know what?
Yeah.
You know what's so crazy? I actually have a poster that I bought this year from a Mexican artist, and in the poster itself, it says and reap what you plant. It's like in Spanish, right? Like it's I forgot exactly word by word what it is, but it's essentially the same concept. Like what you plant, what you plant in now will later come to fruition in the future, and that's where you can tap into,
Yeah.
all those
And
growth.
and what you said also reminds me of there's a TED Talk title, not even the title, a book by the same person, Lupita, I think Nyong'o. She, I think it's her. She gave a talk called "The Danger of a Single Story," and we need infinite stories, and that's another reason why representation matters, right? Your story matters, and it needs to go to not just one single car, but many cars, many houses, many families and homes,
Yeah.
and their stories need to go to
Also
many
go.
places.
Yeah.
So, Nicholas, do you have any last words to share before and after, since it's the second time you took the workshop? What was your
No,
benefit and what
it's
was your results of?
yeah. I do have some. The only words I have is that she picked up very quick. Um, she's a fast learner,
Thank you.
and she also used her surroundings.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yes, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. This is also more conducive. That's why I did it outdoors in the
Yeah.
park, even though I knew it would get dark quickly. Because it is more conducive to sensing space when we do it outdoors. Yeah. All right. Thank you everyone for watching, and thank you everyone on YouTube and on IGTV when I post the clips. Yeah, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. I will end the live.
Bye. Bye, Kundan.
Bye.